I needed to make this video because I realized that this channel can be very dangerous without the proper guidance. Because a lot of the things we talk about here can disrupt your entire perception of reality. And you can fall into chaos if you don't have something supporting you or something that can keep you from becoming lost. So we are going to discuss how to protect yourself and how demonic forces can attack us on the spiritual path. First and foremost, what is the demonic? What are demons? I tend not to give value to individual entities, but rather that there is just one force of negativity that is operating in the universe. And fundamentally, it's not evil, but evil is a byproduct of chaos, of darkness, of death and entropy. In the universe, this manifests in the form of black holes, which are the destructive force of reality. All galaxies are slowly being consumed by a supermassive black hole at the center. And so on the spiritual path, that negative force is that which prevents you from ascension or prevents you from raising your frequency. They are the things that keep you trapped in lower states of consciousness. They keep you trapped in suffering. They keep you trapped in illusion. A while back, I learned that my grandma experiences attacks from demons or the devil in her sleep all the time. She hears the voices and she hears these entities attacking her. And she's always been very connected to the spirit realm. And she's not particularly, let's just say she's a very simple person. So the first trap we have to avoid is giving the idea of demons our belief, our energy, our attention. Because when we believe something to be true, we can make the mistake of believing it into existence. Because what we believe, we are interested in, and we give that our attention. And where our attention is focused, that is where we give our energy. And our energy is our life force. So if we are cowering in fear of these demonic entities trying to get us, that itself is the behavior that is feeding them. That mindset, that belief. When in reality, demons have no existence in and of themselves. They are not real. They are imaginary things. But because people believe them into existence, they are given life, they are given form, they are given existence. And now the stronger demons, they have the ability to create massive death and chaos and terribleness. Whereas mostly in our own lives, we might have to deal with kind of petty demons that mess with us in somewhat trivial ways. They get us to act angry or irritated, send out negative energy, and they're feeding on this all the time. But you see how easy it is to get lost in the kind of neuroticism of thinking about demons all the time? Fear is the number one fuel source of what is called demons. When you were a child, if you believed in the boogeyman, it had an effect over you. It instilled fear, but the boogeyman was never real. The moment you grow up and you realize that, then the boogeyman no longer has any effect over you, and it doesn't instill fear any longer. Things control us and have influence over us because of our belief. And you see how difficult this can be, how tricky this can be, because we don't want to ignore certain phenomenon in reality. Certain spiritual teachings can get you caught in spiritual bypassing. The key is being able to see clearly, but when we are in strong emotional states, when we filter reality through certain beliefs, when we have strong identities, when we have strong attachments, these things filter reality and we become more and more unconscious. So for instance, in my life, I have spent a lot of time developing my awareness. And so I can see what people would call demons. I can see their influence in my life. I can see them planting seeds. I can see them trying to do things. And this is not just like one-off. I can notice their influence with predictable reliability. And the force of the demonic or of negativity is a specific pattern with specific characteristics. So once you become aware of this, you can start to see its influence. But you see, I recognize it, but I don't feed it my fear. I don't get caught up in this belief like, oh, there's demons. It's just something that's happened. It's just things, it's just experiences that are arising. There's no identification with somebody who's being attacked by demons or somebody who's being influenced by demons. Because the moment you allow that identity to take form, then they have influence over you. Because you believe them, and then you feed them with your fear. And you get caught in this feedback loop of death because you feed them your fear, they get more powerful, they have more influence over you, and so you feed them more fear because they are able to influence you in more destructive ways. The moment you take your belief, your attention away from them, you stop feeding them your energy. They have to feed off of you. They have no life of themselves. And at the opposite end of the spectrum, people who are highly unconscious might never recognize demons or this force of negativity, and they just act and they feed them beyond their awareness. And so you don't want to get so lost in ignorance in which you completely ignore that force, that phenomenon, but you don't want to believe it so much where it becomes a story in your head about what is happening. If you ever tell yourself, I am being attacked by demons, that is a story. And we feed that story through our belief. Another dangerous trap, which is kind of the opposite of having strong belief, is the idea of spiritual bypassing. This is why Advaita Vedanta is such a dangerous way of looking if you're not careful. Because if the ego is able to slip in the back door without your awareness, you will begin writing away all of experience. You can say, oh, well, nothing exists. All is God. So what does it really matter what I do in this life? If everything is an illusion, it's a figment of God's imagination, then it doesn't really matter what happens. The biggest example of spiritual bypassing is that a lot of people in the spiritual community, they reject the body and they want to reach toward the transcendent and they want to escape reality. But trying to escape reality will leave you lost, it will leave you hopeless, and you will live a miserable life because you are rejecting a huge part of reality, a huge part of life. Even though the physical world is the surface of things, it's not the whole picture, it's still a fundamental aspect of our experience in life. So you have to honor the body. You have to accept that, yes, I probably have a lot of trauma that I'm not facing. I have a lot of conditioning. I have strong identities and beliefs and attachments, and I'm not just the one eternal consciousness beyond and transcendent, and that nothing can hurt me or nothing can affect me, because as the eternal consciousness, I am beyond reality. But you are not just beyond reality, you are also in reality. You are in a body, you have a mind. These things are parts of you. So rather than rejecting them, you want to live through them and use them as they were intended. The purpose of spiritual teachings like Advaita Vedanta, these things are designed to get you to realize your true nature and see beyond the illusion of everything. But that's not the end of it. They say before enlightenment, you chop wood and carry water, and after enlightenment, you chop wood and carry water. In this journey, in my experience, out of all the spiritual teachings, everything I've ever learned on the spiritual journey, at the end of it all, I ended up really just throwing it all away. This idea of ascension or transcendence is really starting at the beginning once again, but approaching life from a new perspective, a new vantage point. It's being as you are now, living in the present moment, not rejecting your limitations, not rejecting your attachments, and trying so hard to transcend and become greater and become one with consciousness, yes, we are on that path. But by rejecting the body, by rejecting the mind, by trying to run away, that is precisely what is keeping us from transcending higher. That is what is keeping us in the way of being completely immersed in God. We have to understand that the ego is what desires spiritual liberation, or these great spiritual gifts and rewards that we get on the spiritual path. But the ego can never attain those things. So you get caught on an infinite spiritual journey of trying the latest technique and learning about the next big spiritual teaching that's trending. You find all the meditation and yoga practices. You develop a spiritual ego that says, I am spiritual, look at me and all the things that I do that make me spiritual. That's why they make fun of spiritual people. If you've seen the memes of, oh, now I'm enlightened, so I'm better than everyone else. A lot of people in the spiritual realm are narcissistic, and they use spirituality to bypass their weaknesses, their shortcomings, their trauma, their conditioning. Because think about it, if you come to the realization that you are the pure, unconditional, eternal consciousness that is without flaws, well then the ego can just say, oh well that's who I am, and I am without flaws. I am perfect. And because there is truth to this statement, you believe it. But because that strongly held belief is attached to an identity, that identity blinds you from the whole truth. That is, in fact, you are not as perfect as you think you are. You are not as free and liberated and spiritual as you think you are. That is why a lot of spiritual people get caught in engaging in, let's say they're a slave to earthly pleasures, because they have rejected and avoided that part of themselves, the part that's grounded in the body. And so they become slaves to overeating or sex or drugs, or they're a slave to their emotions. The danger of the spiritual ego is that you always want to consume more knowledge. You always want to find the latest tools and techniques to get you to this ultimate state of enlightenment, of liberation. And you know if you are stuck in this state when you have a natural repulsion toward trivial things or simple people or earthly things. You know, I only like having deep, profound conversations. I don't like the superficial small talk and stuff. And that can be honest and that can be true, but you have to discern whether or not it's because of you rejecting and avoiding the earthly reality, or it's just because you get it, or it's an honest expression of the experiences that you would prefer to have. But in true enlightenment, in the true awakened state, you can accept and enjoy all experience, because the mind is what separates and rejects and avoids things. And so if you get caught in that state, then you are operating from the mind, from the ego, and that creates suffering. What is called demonic is really what keeps you trapped in illusion, because when you're trapped in illusion, you perpetuate suffering, not only in yourself, but in other people. And so if the force of negativity or of illusion can keep you trapped, can keep you attached to your identity with the mind or the ego, and also at the same time get you to believe that you're free, that you're enlightened, then that is like the ultimate goal for them. Because you essentially are in a prison cell with the door open. You are there of your own accord, and you never assume that you're a slave because you already believe that you're free. This is why one of the highest spiritual virtues is humility. This is why Socrates said, "All I know is that I know nothing." Because when you allow yourself to be that kind of nobody, to not be trying to be spiritual or trying to do this or trying to do that, you allow experience to be as it is, and you see your experiences more clearly. You can see your attachments and where you're stuck. But when you're in pride, you believe you know it all. And that is one of the dangers of spirituality, because when you know these big, crazy, profound ideas, it makes you think that you know everything. because there is some truth to that, but it's not the whole truth. It's easy to believe that you know more than everybody else, so in a way you're better than everyone else. That is how the ego traps you. That is how the demonic continues to use you as a fuel source for suffering. That is how you get trapped in unconsciousness. And so the cure for this is to let go of the strong beliefs, the strong identities, and not even to so much abide by all of these spiritual teachings and all of these spiritual principles. The truth and true spirituality is very simple. And it comes down to just being as you are, right here, right now. Being present and allowing things to be as they are. And through this, you are not in resistance to life. You don't need spiritual teachings to be here now. You don't need big ideas and concepts to be enlightened. Being enlightened isn't even about spirituality. It's just that spirituality is kind of the main vehicle in which we explore that idea. But in truth, enlightenment is your most natural state. It is the fundamental essence of what you are. You are already enlightened. The spiritual journey is over the moment you realize that you are already at the finish line. That there is nowhere to go, that there is no one to be, that there is nothing to do. It's really as simple as just live and enjoy your life and have fun with these spiritual ideas and the big concepts and exploring yourself, embarking on a journey of self-discovery. Enjoy all the experiences, the dark and the light, and the rain and the sunshine, because all of these experiences have their own flavor that we can enjoy, that we can relish in. Some experiences are bitter, some are sweet, and there is an infinite array in between. You don't need any spiritual ideas to be enlightened, because you are that now, and you have always been that, and you always will be that. The question is, how long will you continue to play the mind games? How long until you can just be here now? The present moment is always waiting, whenever you're ready.